There's a lot of debate when we look at the exercise world, as we know, of what is the right kind of exercise for longevity.
We can take every peptide or supplement in the world, but if you're off here and you're stressed, it doesn't matter.
He has the #1 fitness podcast in the world right now.
You've seen my body weight shift a little bit. I had more body fat. I had some unhealthy issues at one time. But I've been able to correct it.
So if you want to be live as long as healthy, or live longer and stronger, get your body fat into those target ranges and keep it there year round.
It works for me. It works for my patients.
Have more muscles, have less fat, and better lungs.
20 or 30 years ago, people thought you had to go running and do a lot of this stuff that probably long-term is not the best thing.
Bigger is not always better, but if you want to be strong, that's going to be correlated very well to longevity and overall health.
So how much do we need the cardiac side? How much do we need the zone 2 training?
The leaner you are, the longer you're going to live.
We were the first in the UK to set up the TRT model as it is.
Don't try to overdo it and try to overcompensate, because you're actually putting yourself backwards as opposed to moving forward.
Welcome everyone to this Longevity and Anti-Aging Roundtable. So happy to have everyone on the table. We'll introduce everyone after we get started with the topic. And what I want to say about longevity is I think science is moving in the direction of helping us not just live longer, but live healthier longer. As I've said in the past, I would prefer to add life to my years rather than years to my life, but I'll take both, to be fair. I wouldn't complain. One of the areas that we work in, we've got different medical professionals and practitioners and those influencers in the space here to discuss what are these latest updates in basically our health and longevity. So I've broken it down into different areas. It's not just one magic pill that's going to reverse your aging. It's going to be a cocktail of different things. Now, of course, you've got the Peter Attias who are focusing on grip strength and VO2 max, which is linked to longevity in a kind of a correlation. But what other exciting, almost sexy substances that can we talk about that will help us live healthier longer? And many of these tools are available today. So we're going to break it down into a few different areas that I think you guys will find very interesting. So first, obviously, there's the foundational parts of health and wellness that we're going to ask our panelists as far as cardiorespiratory, as far as strength and fitness. So the next area we're going to look at is mitochondrial health. I don't know how many of you have heard of mitochondria, mitophagy. These are areas that may help us live healthier longer. And there are certain substances within that realm. There's the hormones, of course. With Balance My Hormones, we're going to talk about how hormones affect longevity and quality of life. Then there's a Senolytics, and this is a weird area where it's all about removing the dead zombie cells from the body, and there are certain tools to do that. There's the exciting kind of the moonshot program of cellular reprogramming. I don't know if anyone's heard of this, the Yamanaka factors. Obviously, you don't want to do full reprogramming. That means making your cells grow younger, turning them back with certain molecules that make them revert to a younger state. Always a danger. If you turn everything on, it may trigger cancer, but in the right way, it might actually make you younger. And that's quite an exciting area. And then the other area we want to talk about is the brain health and brain aging, and how aging affects your brain. There are certain natural enzymes in the body, MAO-B, for instance, that goes up as you age. Is it worthwhile pursuit to bring that enzyme down? So we'll talk about that. And then we hope to have a lively debate back and forth and see where it takes us. And we'll answer your questions at the end. And I think we've got nearly 2 hours of discussion. So firstly, let's talk about, in the anti-aging sphere, what your thoughts are on both the metabolic and cardiorespiratory effects, anything from heat exposure. We'll go around to each panelist. What are your thoughts are the best approaches to living longer in the foundational health setting? So Elizabeth, yeah.
Should we introduce ourselves or not?
And introduce yourself as you do it, yeah.
So guys, I'm Elizabeth Yurth. I've been in this field for a long time. I actually opened our clinic, Boulder Longevity Institute, 20 years ago now. So we were sort of in this field for a taste before everybody got interested in it. So I've seen a lot of things come and go, which is great. I've learned a lot through those years of how to do things a little bit maybe more refined. And I continue to, one of my sort of fortes is always looking at new stuff that's coming and investigating it a little further. I do a lot of teaching and lecturing about peptides, longevity, and we have institution called BLI.Academy. It's a learning institution for people to kind of learn this stuff on their own. Basically, I think there's a lot of debate when we look at the exercise world, as we know, of what is the right kind of exercise for longevity. I think you look at the guys in this panel and you know that we all sort of go into resistance training is an absolute key. I don't think we have to tell this crowd that. Resistance training is an absolute key to this. I think the question is a little bit more when you get into, maybe Dylan will feed us in a lot, is how much do we need the cardiac side? How much do we need the zone 2 training? I think that there's a lot of people who said, well, you get enough zone 2 training if you're training your resistance training the right way. You get zone 2 training while you're doing your resistance training just by taking rest sets. And then there's those who say, no, you have to be out there doing 2 hours at least once a week, maybe twice a week of a lower endurance type training. And I think the debate is still on about that. I'm of the mindset that resistance training takes priority, and then to get the other, I do more of a HIIT training protocol. It works for me, it works for my patients, so that's kind of been my protocol for exercise. I know Dylan, for instance, is a lot more into the cardio side of things, so it'll be interesting to hear everybody else's opinion on the exercise side.
I'm Hunter Williams, online health coach. I think when we look at longevity in the context of like cardiovascular health, you have people that probably take that to the extreme, and you'll have like endurance athletes and everything. And I think that actually probably pulls you in the reverse direction of longevity. And so when I think about this, I think of like, what's the sweet spot of how can I optimize my foundational things like my hormones, my diet, my training, my exercise, all those things, but then also get like, maybe minimum effective dose is the wrong word, but like how can I do the minimum amount without putting my body into too much stress? And I think when we look at that, there's obviously going to be like a sweet spot. And it's like, how can we use some of these agents to take the work that we're already doing and then maximize it? So I know we're going to get into a lot of the different agents and things like that, but I think it's a sweet spot that we're kind of finding out, because probably like 20 or 30 years ago, people thought you had to like go running and do a lot of this stuff that probably long-term is not the best thing for longevity. So it's like, how do we integrate resistance training, cardiovascular exercise, and not put the body in a compromised state and do that right so that we can do it when we're 80 or 90 years old and still be healthy? Because I think a lot of people probably take it to the extreme in their younger years and probably harm themselves in the long run. So we can talk about that today.
Awesome. Hey guys, I'm Jay Campbell. I'm co-founder of Longevity Labs, also online social media influencer. I like to look at it from this perspective. The statistics and the data will tell all of us, or tell each of us, the leaner you are, the longer you're going to live. So the most important thing is to focus on body composition. And it doesn't matter your age, as Dr. Yurth said, and by the way, I love your shoes, those are so awesome. I was like looking at her shoes, I'm like, God damn, those are really awesome. But very truthfully, it doesn't matter your age. I see a lot of younger people, I see aging people in the audience, and if you work on optimizing your body composition to be a man, optimized body composition is between 12 and 15% body fat year round. For a female, it's somewhere between 16 and 22%. If you stay in that target range 12 months out of the year, you are going to live longer than the average person in society, okay? The question is how do I get to that level of leanness? Well, obviously every person on this panel is an expert in talking about the various adjuvants that we can take, right? We can, as Michael was saying, we can optimize our hormones. Once we optimize our hormones, we can start using therapeutic peptides. We can obviously do the training from a cardiovascular and resistance component. There's obviously sleep involvement. There's a lot of other things that we can get into, like biohacking gadgets and technologies like PRP, stem cells, exosomes, all of those various things. But I just think that for all of you guys here watching us and listening to us today, I think if there's one thing to take home today from all of us, it's the leaner I am, the longer I'm going to live. You cannot overcome that. Statistically, that is provable. There are no fat people in senior citizens' homes because they die. Okay, it's a statistical fact. So if you want to live as long as healthy, or live longer and stronger, get your body fat into those target ranges and keep it there year round.
Well said. I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Mike Kosis. I'm the founder of Balance My Hormones. We're a UK clinic that offers HRT and TRT for both men and women, as well as we now do GLP agonists and fat loss programs. And we look at holistically all patients. I've always said we're American style TRT, but with British sensibilities. We were the first in the UK to set up the TRT model as it is. So we're essentially the founders of TRT in the UK. On that note, I'm someone that, over the years, I think you've seen my body weight shift a little bit. I had more body fat. I had some unhealthy issues at one time, but I've been able to correct it. And part of it was through doing more cardio. And weight training was always the basis of what I've done. Now, the thought is, what else has helped? And there's been certain areas of metabolic control and certain areas where certain medications that help improve the metabolism, but the exercise, the cardio, the weights together have always been kind of the foundation. I also want to talk about also the importance of like VO2 max. I think that if people get tied up in that, I don't know what everyone else thinks about the VO2 max and maybe the use of GLP-1s as well to help almost as an exercise mimetic as we continue on the panel. So I'll leave it with the rest of the team. Obviously answer however you want, but I just wanted to kind of help it flow that way.
Yeah, so I'm George Tuliaros. I'm certified biopathologist. I come from Greece. My background is bodybuilding, and I deal exclusively with harm reduction in steroid use, but also replacement therapy in men. Now, I was invited in Italy on March to speak about DRT and give a lecture by Dr. Massimo Spateni, who's my mentor. And we're discussing a dinner the day before, and he told me the new trilogy of age management is be strong. That means have a skeletal muscle, which is the only proven organ of longevity, because the more muscle you have, the less insulin resistance you're going to develop. And the stronger your muscles, the stronger your bones. Also, insulin resistance leads to metabolic syndrome, that leads also to cardiovascular disease, decreasing cognitive function. And then you need to be fit, by meaning, as Jay said, lean, but also have a good VO2 max, because the better your cardiorespiratory capacity, the more chances to survive in ICU when you get, for instance, hospitalized. And then be happy. What does this practically mean? To lower your stress, your cortisol levels, okay, and socialize, because it's proven that people who live lonely are more likely to develop more stress because of perhaps the death is coming and you're alone. So breaking down this means have more muscles, have less fat and better lungs, and also have a good sleep, because insomnia leads to cortisolemia and antagonizes testosterone, of course, and then it messes up with ghrelin and leptin and your appetite and your body composition eventually. That's all.
That's good. Well said. Eric, that's good.
So I'm Dr. Eric Fate, and I run my own practice called Dr. Eric Prime X, and I work with Dr. Yurth at Boulder Longevity, do health and performance optimization, and I will echo their sentiments. I think we're all on the same page, and one of my things I focus on is what I call muscle medicine, for the reasons that everybody said. It might, for years, a lot of people not really we're seeing and hearing that now, but muscle is the organ of longevity, as we've been discussing. But so I think it's all about optimal body composition, and the goal is to get there and to not just have big muscles, but to have functional muscles. You can be big and not, bigger is not always better, but if you want to be strong, that's going to be correlated very well to longevity and overall health. So as Dr. George said, muscle helps with insulin sensitivity, helps with body composition, reducing cortisol, et cetera. But muscle also secretes chemicals called myokines, which have their impact throughout the entire body. Things like irisin, IL-6, and they impact every organ of the body, the brain, the bone, the liver. Similar to what you hear about with GLPs, et cetera, it can help the body perform optimally. So it's not just about looking good in the mirror, it's actually doing things behind the scenes at a chemical level to help you live longer. And I think in terms of how we get there, as everybody said, everybody has a different, there's different ways to do it, and my answer is always, it depends, because everyone is different, because it depends on your lifestyle, your work schedule, your stress, what I call like your stress cup. If somebody's in a tough time in their life, they're working all the time, they've got kids, they're going through a business change, that's not the time to be fasting and cold plunging and working out and doing HIIT. You're gonna run yourself into the ground. So it depends on your schedule. For me, I like to keep things as simple as possible. I'm a simple guy. So I tell everybody, number one, like everybody says, is hit the weights. You have to lift heavy crap at least 3 days a week, and it doesn't have to be crazy. If you've got a crazy schedule, you can get a killer workout in 20 minutes, and I can show you that. So on top of that, just move, just walk. Walking is very underrated. Look at our ancestors, the long-lived societies. They're constantly moving, right? Nowadays, we sit a lot, which is, as everybody knows, is horrible. So you can crush it in the gym for an hour, but if you're on your butt the rest of the day, that's not good. So if everybody knows me, I'm going to be getting antsy here soon, because when I'm at conferences, I'm always pacing in the background.
Why are we not standing right now?
I know, I should be pacing right now, right? So, that NEAT, that non-exercise activity thermogenesis, is huge and actually burns more calories than anything else. So just, if you're working all day, even if every hour, 45 minutes, if you can get up, move for 5 minutes, just move. So people that tell me, I don't have time, everybody has time to move for 5 minutes every hour, and just walk every day. Now, if you want to throw in some HIIT, I love HIIT too, but some people can't do it if they're too stressed or too busy. It's great, I love it, it's very efficient. So if you can do it, great, but you don't have to, again, like Betsy said, you don't have to overdo it. Just sprinkle it in once or twice a week. But for me, if you hit the weights, you move, you walk every day, 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there, 5 minutes here, walk after meals to help with digestion and insulin sensitivity. You could walk with your spouse or your friends and have social time, listen to podcasts, do whatever, so you can kill two birds with one stone and be efficient. So I think that's what it's all about.
Well said.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. My name's Dylan Gemelli. I do a little bit of everything.
He has the #1 fitness podcast in the world right now.
Thank you. Look, I'm only an expert because of the people I associate with and the people that I learn from. I studied under Elizabeth. I've worked with everybody up here, Jay, Eric, George, Mike, Hunter. We've all done stuff together. I am blessed to be able to learn from some of the brightest, most well-rounded individuals in the world. And I work with some of the best companies in the world. But primarily now, everything that I do is kind of shifted to anti-aging. So the focus of what I do, it's neuroscience, it's a mind-body connection, it's cellular health, it's rest, recovery, it's fitness, it's eating. It all correlates. And I always tell people I break things down because I used to train bodybuilders. And I did it for a long time. And I take a 3-prong approach where I look at supplements, diet, training. And you have to understand the correlation on what's important. And really it starts and ends with diet, but the training is very important. And since we're talking about that, in terms of anti-aging, a lot of the things that I do are mistakes I've made. I've overtrained. Me and Elizabeth talked about this, where I would tell her, I was getting over COVID. I'm doing 90 minutes of cardio, and she's like, what are you doing? You got to remember that I've had to learn there's a fine line where you're actually causing detriment to your health and longevity, and you're overdoing it. I've learned the hard way. And there's implementations that you can do. Zone 2 training, you want to be burning fat first. You don't want to be a sugar burner or like always burning carbohydrates. And these are things you have to learn with how you eat and how you train. Like Eric said, walking, grounding, these are important. These are things that I've learned where I was under the impression, oh, you got to run 10 miles a day and that's the only way you're going to burn fat. That's wrong. But me and Jay talked about this especially. People vilify cardio like you're going to lose muscle if you do too much cardio. Well, if you're eating like shit, yeah, you might. You have to combine what you're doing and be of the understanding of how much you're taking in and what goes along with it. And we've all talked about this, we've worked together on it, and we have some differentiating thoughts on things, but in general, we kind of come to the same idea that it's a mind-body connection first, because if you're not mentally right and you're having too much stress and everything, you're never going to be metabolically flexible or right. So what I always want to say is remember that it's not just one thing, it's a multitude of things, and once it combines and comes together, that's how you become healthy and that's how you stay younger. Because we can take every peptide or supplement in the world, but if you're off here and you're stressed, if your hormones are off, if you're not eating properly, it doesn't matter. You can't outwork a dog shit diet. You know, these things, so it all comes together. But I would say when it comes to the training aspect, don't try to overdo it and try to overcompensate, because you're actually putting yourself backwards as opposed to moving forward. And we'll kind of get into the neurological side and everything else. But with the training, of course you want to do it, but you know, take it from somebody that overtrained their whole life. It doesn't benefit you long term, especially on the heart side and the cardiovascular side. So that's what I would kind of leave it with.
Well, thanks, Dylan.